One of the most important meals is breakfast, and one of the most important people in our faith is the Pope. And so this breakfast is going to be a tribute to our Holy Father, right here on Savoring Our Faith. No doubt in my faith, the Holy Father has been such an important part of my spiritual nurturing. From John Paul II and now to Pope Benedict, they've been such an inspiration to feed my soul. And in this episode, I want to kind of give back to them. And so these are going to be papally inspired foods. So the first thing we're going to do is a tribute to Pope Benedict with a little nod and wink to John Paul II, because we're going to be making eggs Benedict. Get it? And it's also going to have a Polish sausage to create a nice, what I would call eggs Benedict savory flavor instead of the Canadian bacon. The other thing that we're going to be doing is going to be a Belgian beer-based waffle. And that is going to be paired perfectly with another German traditional food, pork schnitzel, but we're going to make it into a chicken schnitzel. And this little beep right here is telling me that this waffle iron is ready for our waffle, like a chicken and waffle inspired dish. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Is I'm going to take some of this waffle batter, or you can even use pancake batter to it. I've got these little pans toasting up here because I'm actually going to toast my English muffins for this eggs Benedict, just seasoning it up, flavoring it up a little bit with a little bit of olive oil. And I know most people would just put these in a toaster. Not me. I want to kind of do it this way, keep it super simple and actually quick too, and kind of give it a different kind of flavoring as well. So we're just putting basically a few of these English muffins down on here because we need this as a base, so to speak, for our eggs Benedict. All right. Let me tell you what else I have going. And I just need to turn this on a little bit of a low action here, just so that it toasts nicely without burning. I've got this batter mixed up. I'm going to put a little bit of milk as well as some melted butter. This is going to get whisked up together with some German beer. And now this German beer is going to help create a nice little frothiness so that we can get this, there it is. A little bit of this frothiness, and I'm going to add just a little bit at a time so that I can whisk it and make sure I've got the right consistency. I always say that, breakfast, well, I don't say it, the doctors say it too, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I think one of the most important people in our faith is going to be, obviously, God, Jesus, our Blessed Mother, the saints, but here on earth, the Vicar for Christ, no doubt. He is an inspiration to so many with his words and also with just his example. Okay, good. You know what? We've got these toasted. I'm just going to flip them around. You can't get any simpler than this. And again, even though it would be a lot easier just to put this on in a toaster oven, I don't want to do that. I want to, again, create a different level of flavor and use less utensils and less equipment in the kitchen. You can see this is still way too clumpy, so I'm going to continue to add the beer a little bit at a time to make sure that we've got this at the right consistency for these waffles. When I met the Holy Father the first time, it was John Paul II. I was a seminarian studying in Rome, and it was obviously incredible. And I remember going to an early morning mass, and I was so excited that later that day, I called my mother up, kind of showing off. Sorry, I have to admit. I was so inspired by this whole thing. I kind of wanted to tell the world a little bit more beer. In fact, I used the whole bottle to keep this consistency. I called my mother up and I said, Mom, I just had Mass with the Holy Father. And she said, oh, interesting. This morning I had Mass with Jesus. It was like slam, huh? It was just a real reminder that even though the Holy Father is great, he calls himself the servant of the servants of God. He's not on top of the paradigm. In his mind, he's on the very bottom serving all. And it really kind of reflects why he's considered the vicar of Christ, because he's following what Christ did. He became humble. He became so humble to the point where he became a slave to all. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions about who the Holy Father is. They think he's like a king, and he's hardly that. He is a servant. All right, so we've got these toasting up nicely. This is taking just a little bit more time, and that's okay. But you, my friend, are done. And I want this kind of crusting and caramelizing. It just kind of makes for a nice, not only presentation, but flavor profile. All right, I'm gonna transfer these over here. That's a hot pan, because here's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna take a little bit of, no, not a little bit. I'm gonna take some sausages here. These are Polish sausages. I know that we could have used some like bratwurst. You know what, I'm gonna cook them all, because these are so easy to reuse and other things, whether it be salads or even sandwiches, or even dice them up and put them into some soups. But I'm using these Polish sausage because I found them, they're fresh, and this is gonna be like, again, my little nod and wink to the immediate predecessor of Pope Benedict, because this is obviously named after him. So we're just going to cook these sausage up. We're gonna be very careful not to overcook them, but they're in the natural casing. So this is gonna get a little flip around at one point. This is continuing to work out here. This will now toast, no doubt, in a moment. Now let's get these waffles in the waffle iron. Now I've got this thing going, and it'll just keep telling me when to beep. You can see that it's pretty hot right now. So that's good. Let me get some spray in there to just get it, to make sure that it comes out super easy, even though this is already non-stick. A little ladle to make sure that I can spread it all out, and then I let magic take its course. So here we go. Just a little spray and a little ladling action here. Yes, I hear you. I know that you are ready to do your wonders here. So just, we don't want to overcrowd it, you know, we want to, because the beer itself has some hops and some leavening agent. But if it, you know, falls out just a little bit, don't worry, the Holy Father is forgiving. And do its thing. All right, we're gonna make a couple of these, but in the meantime, I also want to get my chicken ready for the chicken and schnitzel, which is kind of like, you know, chicken and waffles kind of thing, but we're gonna use a technique that generally the Germans would use when preparing schnitzel, which is basically a filleted piece of meat, breaded and fried. And that's what we're gonna be doing. So let's get our chicken out and cut up. We will be having a good old time, making sure that we get these browned, these cooked, but I also have to be poaching my my eggs pretty soon too. And so I've got some water that's boiling with a little bit of vinegar in it. And that's going to help keep the eggs from kind of falling apart. So let me get a cutting board for this, and we're gonna fillet this down, get our workstation together, and you can see how we make these schnitzels. Having had the experience of living in Rome, I had a chance to be physically close to the Pope. In fact, the Pope, John Paul II, used my chalice. I saw his lip mark on my chalice. I didn't wash that chalice for like 3 weeks. And it was amazing to know that the Holy Father drank the precious blood of Christ. But as important as that was, as beautiful as that image is of his lip mark on my chalice, nothing compares to what was actually in it. Because that's what makes the Holy Father holy. It is the body and blood of Jesus Christ. And it really shows to us that we have a participation and a share in that holiness because of that meal. This is going great. I'm still waiting for these to beep so that I can open the lid and not overcook them. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that I've got something ready to scoop it out, because I'm going to be working with some chicken. And so I'm going to get a little fork action, maybe even 2 of them, to be able to pick these all up. In the meantime, I'm going to fillet these chicken breasts. I'm going to trim them out a little bit so that I get some of the fat and some of the tendons and the cartilage out of the way. It doesn't make for pleasant eating, although it will cook down, and some people will kind of work through that and eat it. And I'm not that way. I want to clean this up a lot so that it will be, like I said, easier to eat, easier to cook, more even in the cooking process. I'm going to see how this, oh, guess what? It's done. Okay, looking pretty good. I'm going to make another batch. Let these rest just a little bit. You can see it's going to be kind of hopsy because of that beer. It's got a little bit more of a darker color, and that's quite all right. Here's what I've got to do. With the magic of this fork, here we go, moving this off to the side. Let me get some more batter in there because we're going to continue to make around. Notice what I'm doing though. I know that I had my hands in this chicken, so I kind of got to be careful. I don't want to touch anything. All right, here we go. We're going to fill it all out. And then again, continue to let this thing speak to me, so to speak, telling me when it is ready. Just being able to hear and listen for this kind of does remind me of what it was like when I first met the Holy Father. You can almost hear God speaking to him. That away. Speaking to him and speaking to me through him. Besides the fact that he is the vicar of Christ, he is also the high priest in a way. He is my boss. He is kind of everybody's boss. So here, what I've got to do is fillet this chicken out. Very easy. Just keeping my hands pressed, going halfway through and not deviating whatsoever. And now you've got kind of two little fillets out of the one. I'm going to do the same thing here. Cutting all the way through. And there you go. Let me get this in a bag. I'm going to season with some salt and pepper, and I'm going to pound it out. There we go. Got a bag here. And so when we season this with a little bit of salt and pepper, we're going to pound it out, and you'll see just how easy it is to assemble these schnitzel. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just season this up with a little bit of salt, and there it is, my pepper. What I'm going to now do is kind of prepare a little bit of a process for schnitzel making. A little bit of salt and pepper, get this kind of moving together a little bit, and I'm going to spread it out into this bag. And this bag will help me to kind of pound it out and keep things thin enough so that the cooking process is even, quick, and it kind of achieves that super thin schnitzel, how shall I say, texture. All right, this is going well. This is smelling delicious. I've got to crack an egg. I'm going to make a little bit of an egg wash by adding a little bit of water to the egg wash. So, like a shallow plate here, like that. Up. Thank you for telling me you are done. I have got to pick this up. Breakfast is not an easy thing to make. Oh, those look great. Those look great. Let's get that hanging out for just a second. Egg in there. Let me get another fork to get you guys out of here. Cut straight through. There we go. You know what? I think I'm going to make one more. If you notice what I'm doing too, I'm kind of transferring it all over to a baking sheet that has a little cookie rack on it. This recipe is going to make 6 waffles easy. And it's got this sweetening in it, it's got some sugar, and it's got some cinnamon as well that I added into the batter to keep it nice and sweet. But don't worry, we also have something sweet to top it all off as well. All right, I can smell and hear the sausages going. And to even help it, do your thing. I'm going to take this pan, cover over it so that it continues to cook and steam and not necessarily overcook or burn. Okay, seasoned chicken, needs to get pounded out just a little bit. And you want to be careful. I'm not going to even use anything super sharp like this. I'm just going to pound it out with a flat side. There you go. Very, very, very easy. It's seasoned already with salt and pepper. I now have to just simply whisk this egg in a little bit of water. It's kind of crazy right now, looking kind of wet. You want like a very light yellowy kind of look to this color. Okay, egg is done. Now let's get these processed and eventually cooked in some olive oil and butter. In fact, let me get my pan going right now to help keep this super easy. Okay, pan going, heat going. A little bit of butter is going to go in here, as well as a little bit of olive oil. And the butter-oil combination will help get that nice golden brown color to it as well. You know, when the Holy Father speaks to us, we know that he speaks to us infallibly when he is preaching ex cathedra, when he is speaking officially as the Pope, and through the dogmas. And those are the times when he speaks to us with a definitive authority and power. And that's a really beautiful thing, to know that God can speak to us officially. We know that God will speak to us, obviously, when we listen to God's word, right? And people will always say, well, you know, I don't need anyone to speak, you know, for me, for God, speak to me for God. Well, that's just not true. You know, obviously the Bible speaks to us about God. What makes us think that the Holy Father doesn't hear the same thing? And so when he speaks to us, it's kind of a beautiful thing to know that he doesn't just speak to us on his own. He speaks to us through the authority of a church that's been around for 2,000 years, initiated by Christ himself. All right, super easy. In a little bit, you know, this will be easier if I have another little utensil to help me out. We've got some chicken dredging, first of all, in some flour. Watch this. Now into an egg wash, and then now to some panko or even Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, okay? That's pretty easy. Let me get that really dredged well. Okay, I see that the egg, that the butter and the oil is mixed together well. So here's what I'm gonna do. Let me just do 2 more, and then we'll keep going on. I smell you, and I definitely know that you need to be flipped. Oh my goodness gracious, that smells so good. And that beautiful kind of caramelizing right there is exactly what I want. Now, again, covering this over just so that it will kind of steam and cook. I'm going to turn that heat down just a little bit. Let's continue on with the egg wash process. Wash. And this will help to get the panko to stick all together and create that nice, beautiful crusting. It's kind of neat, actually. I've gone to the Vatican when I was a seminarian. What an honor that was. And to be able to have Mass with the Holy Father is kind of one of the first things you do in the morning. All right, I hear you. You're talking to me, waffle iron. Let me get this chicken just in here. Let me open up that lid, turn you off. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Other 2 pieces of chicken. This should become simple. Our meal is certainly coming together. I also ask people, you know, how do you start your day? How do you start your day? Oftentimes, people will start their day with a cup of coffee or the morning news. I get it, you know, because we're busy and we got to kind of multitask. But honestly, how long does it take to just say a little morning prayer? And then honestly, how long does it take to make sure that we remember our family in prayer? And not just our human family, what about our spiritual family? After all, a spiritual family not only needs a mother like a human family does, it also needs a father. And that's in a way what the Holy Father does. He kind of shows to us our unity in faith. You know, I lead pilgrimages to Rome, and I see so many people from so many different countries. And I don't care what language you speak, we all kind of speak the same language when they come to these events sponsored by the Vatican, posted by the Vatican, where the Holy Father addresses the people of all nations in so many different languages. That's an amazing reality. Okay, This set of chicken is going to go down now, knowing that these two I put in first. Let me just clean up my station a little bit, check on the sausage, and we're going to be having breakfast pretty soon. Pope Benedict is our Holy Father. Before him, we always had a Holy Father. It's God's way of reminding Mother Church and his children here on earth that we will never be without a Father who has a responsibility to provide for us a daily bread, a daily nourishment of the Word of God dwelling flesh in us. And so thank you to God for giving us our Holy Fathers of faith throughout all of history, and we can be rest assured that we will never be orphaned. God will always appoint a next Holy Father to continue to feed his hungry children. All right, my sausage are looking great. That's going to again be the base for our Eggs Benedict, our Pope Benedict, Eggs Benedict, you know, whatever it is, breakfast thing. But this is so awesome that you can actually eat this not just for breakfast, but I mean, I love breakfast food for dinner. All right, chicken is going to go out here. I'm going to separate it out. Again, just all sitting on a little pan with a cookie sheet. I mean, like a cookie rack, so to speak, so that it keeps things crispy. Now on the side here, what I've got is some water that's been simmering very slowly, a low simmer, and I've got some vinegar into it right now. And what I'm gonna do is I am going to crack an egg into it, and I am gonna get a ladle to kind of show you an easy way to lower these in here so that you don't kind of break it up. And this is a gentle process, and it doesn't take long at all. So you gotta have to have a slotted spoon ready, and I've got one ready right now. I've got a little bit of some water right next to me as well to scoop it out and to keep it in there. Warm water, not hot, not cold, because I wanna keep these eggs warm. So guess what? Drop these bad boys into the water. You're gonna see it's gonna look a little ghostly, right? And what we've gotta do is kind of help form it all together here. There you go. And that'll continue to poach and be absolutely delicious. In this same pot of water, I'm gonna use this a little bit as a double broiler as well, so that I can make a little Hollandaise sauce to top off the eggs. Now, I'm not even using this little thing, and I probably should, because it's just better technique. It helps to kind of keep the eggs better formed. There you go. So letting that all kind of sit in there, I'm gonna scoop that out in just a minute or two. I see that my sausages are certainly done, and I am gonna now pull them out, let them rest a little bit so that the juices all stay in there, cut it up, and then we're gonna assemble this delicious breakfast dedicated to a man I am not ashamed to say I love, our Holy Father. He's so smart, you know? He studied this stuff. It's not like when we listen to him, it's not like he's giving us opinion. And let's admit something, folks. Some of the teaching is hard. But dads, do you like teaching your kids difficult lessons in life? No. Who wants that? Because you want to be the kid's friend, right? But as a dad, don't you have the responsibility to do it? And that's exactly what the Holy Father has. A difficult responsibility to sometimes preach a very challenging message to a world that doesn't want to have a dad and kind of do things on its own. So let me start assembling some of this. Moving this out of the way. You can see I've got my, I've just basically got everything ready here. Let me get this, because this was working with this. And I'm going to just cut these sausage on a bias. Oh my gosh, look how beautifully that is. That's cooked. I'm going to cut them long ways too, okay? Again, on a bias so that we can get these fanned out on top of the English muffins. While that's happening, I know this is done, so I'm gonna pull you eggs out. All right, here we go. One egg, I'm just gonna keep it in some water right now. Hope and pray that it doesn't break open. And you gotta be very delicate. These eggs are delicate. All right, good. In you go. So far looking pretty good. You know, some of the big restaurants, oh, I can see this one needs a little bit more time. But in the meantime, as that's continuing to simmer out, turn the heat up just a little bit. Let me get a little Hollandaise sauce going. And this Hollandaise sauce, like I said, is a very easy version of it. A very easy version of Hollandaise sauce. And what I'm gonna do is into this, a little bit of sour cream, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of tarragon, and I'm also going to add just a little bit of olive oil as well. We're gonna add some salt to it, a little bit of pepper, boom. Just keep it over here just to keep things kind of warm. Normally I would crack an egg yolk into this and kind of whisk it all around. And this will kind of keep things nice and warm. That's beautiful. Good. So I just want to warm this up. There'll be a nice little drizzle on top of the eggs themselves. All right, I know those eggs are done. Add just a little bit of water to spread it out just a little bit better. Let's get these eggs out of here and let's assemble this meal. I'm ready to assemble this breakfast. We'll put down 2 English muffins right here. We're gonna layer out some of the sausage again, and replacing instead of the Canadian bacon, because again, this is a tribute to our Holy Father, and basically it's an invitation for the French to produce a pope, right? Some Canadians, but I think the Philippines was next. Well, we'll see. That's not up to us to decide, is it? That's obviously up to God. And we've got this egg that's beautifully poached. It's gonna sit right here. Beautiful. It's gonna get topped off with a little of this super easy hollandaise. And what we're gonna do now is just top that off. To this, I added a little bit of some hot sauce too, just to kind of keep it nice and smooth, and also give it a little bit of a zest. Oh my goodness gracious, that's looking pretty good right there. Good. A little drizzle on the plate as well to kind of give it some design. We can turn this off. Now let's put the chicken and waffles together as well. So we've got the 2 waffles right here. Let's put a piece of chicken right here. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna drizzle a little bit of just strawberry jam. I put it in some water, a little bit of vinegar, and this is going to be kind of like, instead of a syrup, we're just gonna put a little bit of drizzle of this jam right here. Again, wet it down with just some water, a little pinch or a little drip of vinegar to help kind of smooth things out. And the only thing I've gotta do is a little garnish. And I've got some mint leaves right now, and I'm gonna put these out. And this will be, my friends, breakfast. Good enough for the Pope, huh? And I think actually the Holy Father would prefer Mass, the Eucharist, meditating on the Word of God. But in the meantime, I know he has to eat. And so, Holy Father, if you are watching, thanks for being such a good spiritual dad. We'll see you next time on EWTN.